Hello and welcome back to The Top Shelf, my Criterion Blu-ray review series. This is episode 71. Glad you can join me. I got a couple of new episodes coming out, and I hope you enjoy them. My name is Ernest Whiteman III. I'm a Northern Arapaho filmmaker, artist, and media educator. And we're taking a look at the top shelf of my video collection. I always take out a Blu-ray. I'll give you a short synopsis, a look at the features or listing of the features, and give you my critique or review of the film, whether if I've seen it and what I'm anticipating if I have not seen it. And so today I'm very excited to present this one. You can tell by the cover already what it is. I think this is a masterful cover. As soon as I saw it when it was announced, I automatically knew what the film was. And I know a lot of cinephiles did too, although this cover has caused a lot of controversy. This is, of course, finally the addition to the Criterion collection, considered the greatest American film ever made. It's, of course, Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane came out in 1941. It was, of course, Orson Welles' directorial debut. In it, he had such a large creative control over it, over every aspect of the film. He paired with cinematographer of the time, Greg Toland, because Greg Toland liked the idea that he was making a film with somebody who didn't know the rules of filmmaking. And you can see a lot of the rules of filmmaking being broken, especially 180 rule and deep shadows, that sort of thing, where back in the day you had to light everything to be seen. And people automatically sort of give this film credit for things like particularly the concept of deep focus in a film, where everything in frame, no matter what the distance is, stays in focus. But what people don't know is that deep focus was innovated by a Chinese-American filmmaker named James Wong Howe, who of course did the impeccable cinematography of HUD back in the 50s, I believe, starring Paul Newman. And he did deep focus about 10 years before Citizen Kane came out. Citizen Kane came out in 1941, and James Wong Howe achieved deep focus on a film called Transatlantic in 1931, and by that he just narrowed the aperture as much as he can, threw a lot of light on the scene, which helped keep everything in focus, so he's able to achieve deep focus that way. And if you look through the incredible and impeccable 4K transfer that's been transferred over to a Blu-ray, you can see how Welles did some of his deep focus, which is achieved a lot through double exposures, which was innovative at the time. There's a lot of motion in the camera, long takes of the camera moving over. While those weren't new, the pull out from the window to the mom sitting at the table was achieved in F.W. Murnau's, I believe it was Sunrise, moving through tables. So these tricks are not anything very innovative, but I think what Toland, like I mentioned before, liked was that he was basically directing a movie with somebody who didn't know the rules of movie, and it was Greg Toland who said that he could teach Welles everything he knew about filmmaking in 3 hours, which is a quote wrongfully attributed to Welles because people want to sort of rag on Welles for his monumental ego, which he did have. And the other controversy that rises up is the screenplay by Mankiewicz, which he co-wrote with Welles. And I think what it comes down to in the end is that they both wrote complete drafts which they merged together. I think that's the sort of like the final form. But of course there's people out there that think that Mankiewicz wrote the whole script. He did write an entire script called American, which was then, through discussions with Welles and they sort of like called together the final screenplay which they used, and then it was all up to Welles to sort of like make the film, because a script is a starting place for any film, but it's the cast and crew that sort of brings that to a vision, and it's the producers and editors and the directors that sort of like complete the final piece. So it's a very collaborative effort, and Orson Welles was sort of like one of the first of the auteurs, you know, the authors of a film, even though films up to that point were collaborative efforts, and who directed them didn't matter. I mean, as long as the stars were in it and as long as it made money, the directors didn't matter. So, but got a beautiful 4K transfer on a remarkably packaged film, and this is why I took the slipcover off, why they packaged the film the way they did. It's a fold-out. It actually spells out his name. It's a 3-disc set. I watched this last night. The transfer was beautiful. You could see the film grains on it, which I never did before. You could see the double exposure lines on the deep focus. It's really cool. And it's one of my films. It's one of my favorite films. It's not my favorite Welles films. Yeah, as you know from past episodes, that F for Fake is my favorite Welles film. So let's break out the glasses and I'll read to you the back. This Blu-ray edition is from 1941. It's 119 minutes in black and white, monaural sound, 1371 aspect ratio, which was the Academy aspect ratio back in the day. A new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack. 3 studio commentaries featuring Welles scholars James Nevermore and Jonathan Rosenbaum, filmmaker Peter Bogdanovich, who was sort of like his protege, and film critic Roger Ebert. The Complete Citizen Kane from 1991, a rarely seen feature-length BBC documentary. New interviews with critic Ferran Smith Naheem and film scholar Raquel J. Gates. 2 video essays by film scholar Robert L. Carringer and filmmakers David Keynes and Randall William Cook. A new program by film scholars and effects experts Craig Barron and Ben Burt. Interviews with collaborators of Welles as well as film professionals who have been influenced by the film. New documentary featuring archival interviews with Welles. Television appearance by actor Joseph Cotten, which is another thing that's really great about this, is that he incorporated a lot of his Mercury players from his theater and radio days. Joseph Cotten was one of them, Agnes Moorehead was one of them, and these were their film debuts, and they have gone on to, you know, illustrious film careers after this. The Hearts of Age, a silent film made by Welles as a student in 1934, which I'm looking forward to seeing. Television program featuring appearances by Welles and Mercury Theater producer John Houseman, actor William Alland and his collaborations with Welles. Mercury Theater radio plays, production stills, newsreel footage, the trailer, English subtitles, of course, for the deaf and hard of hearing, plus a deluxe packaging, which you just saw, and including the book with the accompanying essays by Bilge Eben. Again, a great film. I don't think any film collection should be without it. Even if you don't think it's the greatest American film ever made, just the way the film is structured, telling things in sort of flashbacks, using multiple characters to sort of bring a complete picture of a man who was both loved and hated, kind of all started here. Although, you know, other filmmakers have used the same technique at the time. But I'm so happy I waited for the perfect storm of conditions to sort of purchase this. I've been collecting my my $10 coupons for being a member of the Criterion channel. And then there was a 50% off sale. And then I waited long enough for them to fix the sort of the Blu-ray snafu in their first print. So it all came together and I was able to purchase the greatest American film ever made, which is, of course, Citizen Kane, and that's on the top shelf for today. Spine number 1104. So I hope you enjoyed that episode talking about Orson Welles. We got a Coen Brothers one coming up next, and I hope to see you then. Until then, I'll catch you next time.